Breaker, breaker, this here is a coal miner. Just got me hands on a wheel bigger than the rig itself. Time to see if it's gonna haul or stall on the virtual highway. Over. This is the Simpit. I'm your host, Shaun, and today we are going to do something totally different, or at least unexpected, and that is we are checking out the new TSW, I guess that's truck simulator wheel. Well, if we're going to be doing some trucking, we're going to have to get the right mindset. So the TSW by Moza Racing, their latest, greatest wheel, and the first time I've ever seen a purpose-built wheel for Euro truck, American truck, bus simulator, any big heavy operating machinery type, it's going to be perfect. So this thing's a monster, 16 inches almost, 400 millimeters, and again, a truly unique wheel, something I've never seen before, and really, really cool. The wheel goes for $299, and it is part of the entire Moza Eco System. So you've got the NRG style quick release. It's going to work with any of the Moza wheelbases, and like the newer wheels, it's going to work with the Moza hub. So if you have a NRG style quick release on any base, it's going to work. You'd have a wire instead of wireless, but it's going to work. So this thing comes with all sorts of features, and what's great is they're really tailored to driving a truck. I just love what they did with this wheel. It's so unique and cool. So let's go through all of its details, starting with you've got this microfiber faux leather covering, which is hand stitch, and it's actually really nice. I like the way it feels. It's got a good quality feel to it. We've got the perforated sections between 9 and 3 and smooth on the top and bottom, which is nice for letting the wheel roll out when you're coming out of corners with a big giant steering wheel. So the other thing I love is this 4-spoke center hub. It is totally like a real car. This thing looks like the last rental car I had. Like they just yanked the wheel right off that car and made it sim ready, and everything about the buttons even are straight out of a real car, it feels like, instead of the typical simulator buttons. So other things that are great to talk about are the 14 programmable buttons. They're all labeled with totally automotive or truck controls, which I love, and you can change the colors in the Pit House software. So that's another upgrade to their whole system, which is really cool. You've got the LED bar, which is totally programmable as well. You can change the colors, the timing, and it now has a new feature that they're calling absolute speed mode. In addition to the 14 buttons, you also have these totally cool rotary knobs. Again, everything about this reminds me of a real car. Up and down, you probably hear that click. It's pretty cool. And then you have one over here, so that's 4 more functions. You've got hat switches here for a few more, for a total of 26 mappable or programmable buttons. In addition to that, they've added telemetry indicator light mode with adjusting and support for various different flagging lights. Now with all those features, one thing you will not find on this wheel are paddle shifters. There are no shifters. This is like a real wheel. You're going to need some kind of other shifter form or map some of these buttons. So it is, again, very unique in that way. So the first thing I thought when I got this wheel was 16 inches. This thing's got to be like flexy. It's gigantic. How can it be strong? Inside is a 4 millimeter thick aluminum rim. And I got to tell you, for how big it is, this thing is remarkably strong. I mean, there is a hint of flex under the strongest conditions, but it is very, very robust. And again, I really like the way they got this automotive look. So you got this hard plastic 4-spoke in the middle with the chrome trim, and I just think it looks super duper cool. And now, if this wasn't exciting enough for you, they did include some stickers. So we've got what, silver, gray, red, and blue, and you can cover the buttons or just add these stripes in various different patterns if you wanted to get a little more out of it. But I thought it looked great just like this out of the box. I didn't need those stickers. I like the backlit buttons and the symbols already on it and the chrome trim. I just think it looks spectacular just like that. So one thing I haven't mentioned is, and I don't have one here unfortunately, I wish I did, is the Windshield Wiper Stalk, which is coming out in 2024. So this is, talk about something unique and I've never seen in sim racing before. This is that center column that all real cars have, and trucks too. So you can actually have like turn signals, I'm assuming, and you can have windshield wiper controls and all these things that you would expect in a real car or truck. And again, something else I've just never ever seen in sim racing before. So that's something else I'm really excited about. Hopefully we'll get one before they come out in May. But today we can check out the TSW wheel. And so what I want to do, I'm going to get this R12 on my rig. We're going to get this on the wheelbase, and then we are going to just see how this works in some American Truck Simulator and a few other conditions as well. That's not gonna work so nice. All right. Okay, now that is quite a bit in my way. I don't know if this is gonna work out so well. Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on. Oh, I can't get out. I can't get out. Well, that sure didn't go as planned. That angle is not going to work. It's certainly not ideal for truck driving, and it made it so hard to get in and out of my sim. So I definitely need to come up with a better solution, and luckily Moza Racing has thought in advance of this problem. Whether you're talking about mounting this to a rig or mounting it to a desktop, they made the truck mount bracket, and this is a really simple bracket that clamps to like a desk, or I'm going to adapt it to my rig somehow, and it allows you to invert mount the base and have a lot of angle adjustability so that you could even get like a vertical wheel, like a bus driving wheel position if you want. So let's throw this together real quick, then we're going to get it on our rig and we're going to give it another shot. Now that I have this TSW actually mounted like a proper truck wheel at the right angle, the right comfort, I actually feel like a trucker sitting here like this. Worked out really well. And it does have a little bit of flex, but I think for trucking we're going to be just fine. I think if I bolted this to a desk, it would be absolutely perfect, but I wanted to be able to use my pedals and my shifter. The first thing that's immediately noticeable about this wheel is its shear size. 16 inches, almost 16 inches, 400 millimeters end to end on a perfectly round wheel, no ergonomics. And to me, this is like a real car wheel. I mean, everything about this just feels like a real car. I love the smooth leather. It's very comfortable into the perforated leather, into the 9 and 3 positions. It has a great feel to it all the way around. And, you know, when you think about driving a truck, I'm in American Truck Simulator right now, you want to be able to put your hand in different positions. You're on long hauls. I even sit here hanging on the center hub at times, and even the plastic here is really smooth and nice and has good comfort in my hand. So I can just grab this anywhere and it feels really, really good. So I mentioned the way it feels like a civilian wheel. It goes beyond just the shape and size, but this 4-spoke center section looks like it would have an airbag in it. It looks like the car off my mom's, the steering wheel off my mom's car. It's actually remarkable. Instead of like the round buttons that we're accustomed to on our Formula wheels, these are very smooth. Like, I mean, you can feel a little indentation between the buttons, but it is all so smooth, just like a real car steering wheel. So that's all really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and fire up the truck and just start cruising along a little slowly here. I got my H pattern. You'll notice there are no paddle shifters. It is a truck wheel. You need an H pattern, or you're gonna have to map some other buttons to shifting, which is not a big deal. And we're just getting out of the yard here. You've got a rev strip, so as the truck's revving up, I've got my rev bar letting me know the RPM of the truck, and it's time to shift because it's flashing at me. And then we're going to take a big wide turn here, and this is what it's all about, using a truck wheel, doing a big wide turn so we don't hit that trailer on the inside curb at all. Get out clean with this big heavy load and just let it slide right between our fingers upon release, just like you want in this scenario. So as we're getting out of the yard here, we're going to need to pull onto the city street, and that's when I'll start talking about like the buttons here. So, you know, we've got all of these buttons that are the same symbols that you would see or expect. So for example, I had this one mapped. It's a pink arrow on my wheel, and I can turn on my turn signal, letting the whole world know I'm turning right. And we're going to do another big, wide, hand-over-hand truck turn. There we go. We got out of the yard clean, no damage to our trailer, and we're rolling out into city traffic now. It automatically turned off my turn signal. That's built into the game. So right here, I'm going to pull to a stop real quick. So again, these center buttons here are real nice. I've got my left and right turn signal, which I need all the time in the trucks. Right below that, I have my cycle through headlights and then my high beams over here. Right here, I have a button that accepts deliveries. So it's like the enter button mapped in American Truck Simulator. And then over here, I have my cruise control. And then below that, I have my windshield wipers and my map button. So those are the 8 buttons on the interior that are mapped perfectly for what I need them for. All right, we're going to roll out here again, and I'm going to have to make a left turn into traffic. So right here, I'm going to come to a stop. I've got my left turn signal on. I have the hat switch on the left side mapped to my look left and look right button, so I can make sure traffic's clear. And roll out again, real slow, big, wide turn. And with this wheel, you have all this precision for these wide turns and the leverage, and it just feels really natural. Like it matches what I'm seeing on the screen almost. And rev light letting us know it's time to shift, and we're getting along. And then above that, we have the dial, and I have that for changing views. So I can actually cycle through and look at the exterior. All right, we have a green light. We're going to turn on our turn signal and making a big, wide right turn, getting towards the highway. Not quite there just yet. Trailer's clear of the curb. We're real clean and cruising along. So yeah, I can change the view if I want to see the overhead view or the behind view or the down at the bumper view. I can cycle through all my views on that side. This hat switch over here, I have as my truck command. So if I need to drop the trailer or do anything trailer related, I have them mapped this hat switch. And then this up and down dial I have set for changing radio stations. So we're doing long haul driving. We're truck simming, right? So yeah, I can go through all the different stations back and forth with this one. And then the buttons over here that are mapped for, or they're backlit for volume up and volume down. That's exactly what I'm doing with it. I'm turning the volume of my music or my talk radio on, or turning it down. Over here, so the up and down were our views, and then getting outward, we have our resume plus and our set minus, which works with our cruise control. So as we get this thing up to 55 miles an hour, I can set my cruise control. And then if we're getting into town and we need to slow it down a little bit, maybe it's down to 40 miles an hour in this zone, we can do that. And then if we want to start bringing it back up, we can do that. And again, it's the way the buttons are backlit, because I can change the colors to any color combo I want. It's the way the symbols on them are the kind of symbols you need for ATS or for driving a civilian car. And the way they just feel so much like a real car, that just makes this a very unique wheel. It's a very special, one-of-a-kind wheel. I've never driven anything like it. The middle buttons on the outside, I got my little horn here, and then I got my big semi horn over there. And what I love about this combination is the wheel's $299. I don't know the price on the center console yet, but Moza are the first ones who are really thinking, hey, there are other sim drivers out there. Not everybody's a sim racer. Some people are sim driver, and they want to give them the option for the best experience in American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator or Beam NG or city car driving. There are a lot of scenarios where you don't want a formula wheel. You don't even want a racing wheel. You want a big, wide wheel so you can navigate a big truck down a narrow highway at decent speed. And I think they just hit a real home run with this steering wheel as far as getting something perfectly designed for the environment it's intended for. So I can go on and on about it. I mean, that $299 price without paddle shifters, but you can see some added quality in the way the fit and construction. Everything's so smooth when I run my hands along the wheel. It's so stiff, as I mentioned, for that price, and a good comfort on the wheel rim all the way around, and it is completely changed this ATS experience for me, and so yeah, I'm very happy with the way it works out on sim. I mean, you might have to rebuild your sim just to accommodate the wheel to get the best out of it, like I have. But if you're into the truck sims, it's probably well worth the time to make that adjustment. Now, before we wrap things up, I do want to add one thing. During my initial testing, I used that piece of wood that I had just used some wood screws to hold it to my R seat, and there was a lot of flex involved using that mount. I then later used a metal plate that ended up being so much stronger. So the flex you saw in a lot of the footage was because of that piece of wood. As soon as I made it metal on metal, it was much more rigid. And again, if it was mounted to a desk, I think this would be super duper solid. So I think that tells you everything that you need to know about the Moza Racing Truck Simulator Wheel, the TSW Wheel. But to break it down and make it perfectly clear, let's go through the good, the not so good, and the bottom line, starting off with the good, and that being it's properly sized for trucks, buses, anything bigger than a car. Comfortable for long hauls. Buttons labeled for truck-specific driving tasks. Changeable color backlit buttons. Looks and feels like a real car wheel. Strong for such a large wheel. Extra stickers and graphics. Coming soon, Windshield Wiper Stalk. And now on to the not so good, with the first thing being it doesn't have any kind of paddle shifters whatsoever. Too big to hot swap with Formula rims. Not good for racing. Well, maybe oval. And now on to the bottom line. Let's start things off with this wheel was a whole lot of fun to test. I did probably triple the amount of hours of driving on it to evaluate it than I actually needed to. And maybe it's because I do so much sim racing that it was nice to have to go into the big haulers and drive around in some 18-wheelers for a while. And that was a lot of fun. So I found myself just enjoying the experience. And I think part of it was that it's different for me, a little off the beaten path. And then the other reason I think is because the wheel was so perfectly suited. So it was probably the first time that I've ever driven a truck simulator where I had my wheel in the right position, thanks to that truck simulator wheel mount, and I had the right size wheel. So when I'm doing 300, 400, 500 miles in a semi truck, that I could put my hand everywhere and be comfortable, and it was good for big turns, and it was really accurate and smooth, and it just felt like I was actually in a truck simulator. So for me, I think that just made it a really fun experience. Now, obviously, this wheel is designed for people who are looking for that kind of experience out of their sim, and that gets back to the whole size. I mean, I can't switch this from my Formula wheel. I can get away with a smaller round wheel if I have my wheel mounted at a certain height and angle, but when it came to this one, it was too large just to get in and out and see over. So it did require almost a purpose-built rig for truck simulators. But if you look on YouTube, you look at the popularity of Euro Truck, American Truck, Bus Simulator, all those type of sims, and they've got huge followings. So there are a lot of people who are going to be happy to build a dedicated rig where their wheel is at the perfect height and angle. And I got it pretty close using my rig, but to be optimal, I would have even gone to more of a truck or driving or bus type driving position. So I think some people who've built rigs around it, it's a no-brainer. If they're in the Moza family, it's going to be so easy because it's part of their Moza ecosystem. And even if they're on another wheelbase and they just think this is the perfect wheel, they can still use that hub. So that additional flexibility makes this a big win for me. There was very little that I could say that was negative. I mean, the shifters, no shifters, but do you really expect them? The size of the wheel, well, we just covered it. I mean, obviously, if you're a sim racer, you've got your Formula wheel up like this, it's going to be hard to swap this in and out. But maybe you have a secondary rig, a mullet rig, you're going to be able to do that. And obviously, it might even be worth using that truck mount and coming up with some kind of adapter like I did that made it totally workable. Maybe not optimal, but totally workable, and it gave you those cool car controls and all the comfort of this wheel. So Moza Racing, great job on the TSW wheel, $299, and soon to come that Windshield Wiper Stalk, and having additional controls and just the type that you'd expect if driving a civilian car or a truck or a bus or any of those kind of things. So I think that's going to make this wheel even better, and I'm even more excited about that than I was about the wheel. Put them together, I think it's going to be magical, and maybe at that point I'm going to have to build a rig just to drive Truck Simulator, because I did really enjoy the whole experience. So I think that tells you everything that you need to know about the TSW wheel. Hopefully I've answered any questions that you might have, and most of all, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can find out when our next video comes out, and thank you for watching. This is the Simpit. I'm Shaun Cole, and I'll see you on the track. "10-4, this is Coal Train coming at ya. Got my hands on a wheel bigger than a coal hauler." Copy that. "This is Coal Crusher rolling down the line. Just grabbed hold of a wheel so hefty, it could flatten a mountain." 10-4, this here's Coal Hopper, hopping into the virtual driver's seat. Got me a wheel so stout, it could stir up a dust storm in the desert. 10-4, this is Coal Train coming at ya. Got my hands on a wheel bigger than a coal hauler. Breaker Breaker, this is Coalzilla on the airwaves. Just snagged myself a wheel bigger than Bigfoot's footprints. 10-4, this is Coalnado tearing up the CB. I got my hands on a wheel so massive, it could steer ship through a sandstorm. Let's hope this gadget's smoother than a Sunday drive down Main Street. Hold on to your hat, folks. Coalnado's about to whip up some digital mayhem on these virtual highways. Over and out.